It's been 1 week since I got my iPhone 15 Pro. I want to go over what I think about this phone so far, and if any of the alleged issues that this phone has have bothered me. Last year, I had a bad experience with the 14 Pro from launch. The phone slowly got better over the next couple of months, but when the 14 Pro first came out, I noticed a lot of software issues, and even some hardware issues. I made a whole video about that for anybody who's interested, but for the 15 Pro, which I just got, I haven't had any real problems. Apple fixed some of my biggest problems that I've had with iPhones, like the lightning port and the stainless steel sides, which began to annoy me on the 14 Pro. I've been utilizing the USB-C port every day since I got this phone, and it's really made the whole experience so much better. I no longer have to rely on Apple's extremely inconsistent AirDrop technology to transfer files, as I can just offload files directly onto a USB drive. USB-C has been one of the best things Apple implemented, and I don't care if the EU made them do it, it's good either way. The new design, while I haven't experienced it that much, is better. I use my phone with a case, and besides to take photos of the phone for this video, I have not taken that case off since I got the phone. But the new design is much more comfortable and just much better. No more sharp corners, and also no more nasty stainless steel design. The stainless steel on all my prior iPhones has just looked terrible after being handled for even a couple of seconds, as it picks up dirt and scratches way too easily. The new titanium design also allows the phone to be lighter than last year's devices, which is a very good thing. And the new thinner bezels on the display allow the phone's housing to become slightly smaller while still keeping a 6.1-inch display size, which has been pretty good. One of the biggest problems that people say the 15 Pro has is the scratching. Titanium scratches, and so does every other material. Stainless steel will show scratches way quicker, especially on a lighter color like silver or gold. People also say the 15 Pro bends easier, which shouldn't be a problem for most people, as I don't know that many people who don't use a case, and I also don't know people who get into situations where their phone is at risk of being bent forcefully. I'm not going to say that the bending situation isn't a problem at all, but I am saying that it's an unlikely risk to happen to normal people. I've also heard that the new iPhones crack easier than last year's iPhones, which does make sense, seeing as the glass is more curved this year, but is also not exactly a problem for most people, as cases and screen protectors are used by mostly everyone to prevent damage to their phone. It's also much more durable than old iPhones, like the 6 or the 7, which people seem to crack constantly. The phone may be less durable than last year's iPhone, but that doesn't mean it's not durable. People also note overheating on the 15 Pro, which I haven't experienced at all actually. I've seen the opposite, with less heat than the 14 Pro, even while fast charging, and I'm glad about that because I haven't gotten as many regular charge holds on this phone due to the heat as I did on my 14 Pro. Even while playing mobile games, which I don't do a lot of, but I tested it for this video, this phone has held up extremely well, and I see no problems relating to the heat output of this phone. It may be an issue on some people's phones, but for mine, and many people who I've talked to about it, there hasn't been any overheating. The extra 2 GB of RAM also allows for more apps to stay open in the background before forced closing, and it also keeps the phone running quicker in general, which has been a good thing, and I'm glad that they finally went from 6 to 8 GB of RAM. Apple spent less time talking about the cameras this year than they have before, but the cameras on these new iPhones are absolutely amazing. The camera quality has been great, and my biggest camera-related issue last year, the poor focus distance, has actually been slightly improved. It seems as if this phone can focus slightly closer than the 14 Pro could, which is a step in the right direction. The camera lens also seems to be slightly smaller this year compared to the 14 Pro, which is also cool. The other major benefit I see of titanium is how easy it is to clean around the camera rings now. It used to be very hard to get the stainless steel finish looking nice, but on my natural titanium colored iPhone, I rarely see any fingerprints or dirt, and when there is some, it's very easy to clean off, and it's never been a problem on this phone so far. iOS 16 was my biggest problem with the 14 Pro. It had so many problems, and especially when it was released, it was a really bad experience. But this year, iOS 17 is a lot better. It's still not the greatest iOS release, as it still has those problems that major iOS versions tend to have for the first while, but comparing it to what iOS 16 was like at this time last year, it's much better, and it's actually been easily usable. There have been some minor problems, but there really hasn't been anything that actually affected how I use the phone on a daily basis. This is really the most refined iPhone. Apple doesn't tend to mess around too much when it comes to design and functionality, and that's proven to be a good thing, as this phone takes the basics of what iPhone does right and improves on them, yet again, to give a great experience to basic users and enthusiast users. The last new feature is the one that I've used the least, surprisingly. It's the action button. It replaced the mute switch, and it really hasn't been that useful to me. It would be cool to program it to take a screenshot, but I can't figure out how to get the Siri shortcut for screenshots to save properly, so that's useless to me. I currently just have it set to mute my phone, but in the future, it could get better with more functionality in iOS updates. I rarely ever used the old iPhone's ringer switch due to how indented it was in a case, but now I can actually see myself using the action button. I also think that if Apple allowed the user to assign a single press action instead of only a long press, it would give the action button a lot more functionality. With all that said, I think that this is going to be a good year for the iPhone, and if you enjoyed this video, a like is appreciated, and if you want to see more content like this, you can subscribe. Goodbye.